Hello, and welcome back to Horn and Fin Outdoors. Are you ready to take a look at one of the best pieces of crossbow hunting technology on the market today? Well, come along and let's check out the new Ravin R-29x. Well, here it is, the Ravin R-29x. And a disclaimer, like I try and put in all my videos, is that I am not sponsored by Ravin. I did not get this crossbow sent to me. I purchased this crossbow with my own money. So I have been a Ravin fan for a while. I did have a Ravin R-29 previously. I purchased a Ravin because I knew a lot about them from their commercials. And I had some buddies that I hunted with out in Indiana that all had, I think, R10s or R20s. So about 5 years ago, I think it was, I purchased a Ravin R-29. I wish I had done a video on it when I purchased it, but I didn't. I had traveled with it. I hunted in Connecticut, killed a doe for the first deer I ever killed with it. I killed a couple deer out in Indiana with it. I've killed deer in Pennsylvania with it. It was a great crossbow. I loved it. I shot it, I believe, for 5 seasons. And then I decided to sell it and purchase the R-29x. So this R-29x is almost the same as the R-29. It's got the same 29-inch length. It's got the same exact width. I believe it's 11 inches uncocked and 8 inches when it's cocked, something like that. It's got the same scope on it. It's got... the bottom of it is pretty much the same, where you have you can store the crank on one side and the quiver on the other. Everything in this crossbow is pretty much the same as the R-29 that I had. The R-29 was camo. This is all black. They shoot the same speed. It's 450 feet per second, which is blazing fast for a crossbow. About the only differences that I see in this crossbow other than the R-29 is the cocking mechanism. The 29, when you cranked it, it had a ratcheting sound to it. Unless you held your thumb back here on the little ratcheting wheel, you held that up and you can crank it and it would be quiet. This one, they have, I guess they call it their silent technology or whatever. So when you crank this crossbow, it does not make that ratcheting noise anymore. It's quiet, which I think is fantastic. One of the other things I love about Ravin crossbows is that their string does not rub down the rail of the crossbow like many other crossbows do. What you'd find with a lot of other crossbows is that string rides that rail every time you shoot. So you need to lube the rail and lube the string constantly to prevent the string from coming apart. With the Ravins, there is a arrow rest in the front, and then in the back, in the trigger mechanism, is where the knock clicks into, and it's totally free floating. So when you squeeze the trigger and this thing fires, there's nothing rubbing against anything else, so it prevents wear and tear on the crossbow. Now strings, they tell you to replace these strings every 2 years, I believe. My old crossbow, I got 4 years out of that set of strings, which is pushing it. You're better to follow the manufacturer's instructions and change them out every 2 years to prevent any problems. But this crossbow is a serious piece of hunting technology. Unfortunately, it's not cheap. I think I paid $2,700 for this crossbow, but when I purchased my 29, I think I paid $2,500 for it. 4 years later or 5 years later, whatever it was, I sold it for $1,200, so that helped offset the cost of this crossbow. I have not shot this crossbow yet. It is brand new. All I did was take off the tags that were on it when I purchased it. But what we're going to do in this video is we are going to go over some of the accessories that I put on it. We are going to discuss how to sight the crossbow in, and we are going to shoot it and see how it does. I have high hopes for this crossbow because years ago I took my R-29 down to South Carolina with me and I shot it at 100 yards and I was putting 3-inch groups at 100 yards with it. So it's accurate, and I'm imagining this is going to be just as accurate. So let's take a look at this crossbow, the accessories I'm going to put on it. Let's talk about what I'm going to do with them, the little upgrades I'm going to make to it. Let's get this thing sighted in because I can't wait to shoot it, and I really can't wait to get it in the woods and hunt some animals with it. So let's get to it. All right, we talked a little bit about this crossbow in general, the specifications of it, the capabilities of it, some of the parameters, some of the features. But let's talk about what I'm going to do with this crossbow to make it a little bit more geared towards what I want to do with it. So just to let you know, this crossbow from the manufacturer comes all set up and ready to go. All you've got to do is sight it in. Now it comes with standard with the cocking lever. It's got a quiver on the bottom of it. It comes with 3 arrows with field points, the lighted scope that has reticles in it to tell you where to hold to shoot, which makes things very easy. Everything you need comes in this crossbow package, but I'm going to do a little bit of a few things to tweak it a little bit to gear it up towards what I'm going to do with it. So let's talk about some of the accessories I'm going to add to it. First one I'm going to add to it is the Ravin vibration dampeners. I got these off Amazon. You'll see that I buy just about everything off Amazon. I'll put a link to this down below in the comments if you want to buy them. I will also link the crossbow itself down in the comments, so if you want to buy the crossbow, you can find it. But these are very easy to install. They go on the limbs and they help to cut down the vibration and the sound. Now, I've never done a test, a comparison with or without them. I put them on my last crossbow and they seem to work fine. So I figured I'd pick them up and put them on this crossbow too. Carrying the crossbow, to make it a little bit easier to carry, I'm going to add a sling to it. There are sling mounts on the crossbow itself. My last Ravin R-29, I had the Ravin sling. For this one, I picked up a Limb Saver Kodiak Air firearm sling. I liked it because it has kind of like a stretchable silicone strap to it, and there's also a handle on it that I can hold on to while I carry it. The crossbows, while this one is balanced very well, they are a little front heavy. So when you carry them, you want something to hang on to hold it in the proper position. So this is the sling I'm going to add to it. Ravin makes it very easy because they have the sling mounts right on the crossbow. So all you've got to do is just attach your sling to it and you're ready to go. The scope mounts. I'm going to change my scope mounts out. These are, I don't even know the brand. It's covered up with the label, but I found these online, and these are the same ones that I put on my last crossbow. What they have is they have a Picatinny rail on the top of the ring. I want that because I'm going to mount cameras on it to film while I'm hunting. So I have GoPro mounts that will attach to it. And that's the only reason why. Also I can mount a light on there too for hog hunting. But I'm going to change out the rings from the standard rings that come with the Ravin. I'm going to put these on just so I can mount stuff on the top. It has that accessory rail I want to use. I also just noticed, I forgot to tell you about this. It comes with a manual. Do yourself a favor and read the manual, especially if you're new to crossbows and crossbow hunting. There are certain, I want to call it maintenance items you should take care of with these crossbows, like lubing the string or things they tell you in here about not leaving it cocked for longer than 8 hours, uncocking the crossbow after you're done using it. So read the manual. It's got a lot of good information. If you lose your manual, you can find it online like everything else online these days. And let's talk a little bit about what we're going to shoot out of this crossbow. Now, it does come with 3 standard arrows. Those arrows are the .003 inch straightness arrows. I've shot the 003s, I've shot the 001s. I don't see a difference in them when I shoot them, but I do tend to purchase the 001s. And what I bought here is, these are the premium lighted carbon arrows. I love lighted nocks, whether it's in my compound bow for when I shoot deer or bear or hogs or whatever, or in my crossbow. I just love the lighted nocks because as you get older, it gets harder to see the arrow travel, especially with these crossbows, since they shoot so fast, that the lighted nock helps you follow and track that arrow. Not to mention, if you film like I do, it shows up pretty cool and it looks really neat on the video. But these are the bolts that I shoot through it when I'm hunting. When I practice, I tend to shoot the basic arrows, and then I use these for when I hunt. And finally, let's talk about what I'm going to be tipping these arrows with when I hunt. I love the Muzzy Trocar HBX 100 grain. They are crossbow broadheads. However, I use them in my compound bow as well. If you want to see a review of these broadheads, you can check out the link I'll put up above here, which is the review I did on them. I've been using these now for, I think, 5 or 6 years. And after trying all different kinds of broadheads in my compound bow and my previous crossbow before my Ravin, I love that I can shoot the same exact broadhead out of both my compound bow and my crossbow. So there's no problem there. I just buy the same broadhead, shoot the same broadheads. They're 100 grain, just like I shoot in my compound, and they are deadly accurate. They are and they're what's considered a hybrid broadhead. So they have 2 fixed blades and 2 mechanical blades. So if all else fails, you've got those fixed blades, but I've never had a problem with the mechanicals deploying. So that's what I shoot on these. I use them for hogs, I use them for bear, I use them for deer. So they're one broadhead that suits my needs perfectly, and that's why I'm sticking with them. And I almost forgot, one of the most important things that I have with my Ravin is I've got the hard case. This one is brand new because I sold the other one with my last crossbow. I do also have the soft case, which comes in handy when I'm traveling just short distances where I can throw the crossbow in it, throw it in my truck, and drive to wherever I'm hunting. However, if you are doing any traveling on airplanes for hunting, you definitely want to have one of these. They're not cheap. They're like $380, but they are form molded and specifically designed for your Ravin crossbow. They have notches cut into them that cradle your oh geez, my mind's blanking out, your limbs on the crossbow. It has 2 spaces in it where you can put your cocking handle or an extra cocking handle, and then in the back of it there are also 2 other spots that you can put any accessories like your sling or whatever you want to fold up and stick in there. It closes, it's hard covered, it has wheels on the bottom of it so you can drag it around. My last one, I traveled with it to Texas twice and to Indiana 4 or 5 times by airplane, and it held up great the whole time. That's why I made sure I bought another one. So if you're gonna be traveling by airplane, don't cheap out on your cases, because you've got a $2,600 crossbow that you want to protect from the people that are tossing your luggage all over the place in the airlines. So this one works great for me, and I absolutely love it. Those are the accessories that I'm putting on my crossbow to tailor it to what I'm going to need it for. So let me put those accessories onto the crossbow, and let's get ready to go sight it in and shoot it. I'm going to explain to you the exact process you need to do when you're sighting this thing in, so you can do it easy when it's your turn. So let's get the crossbow set up, let's get outside, and let's shoot this thing. I've got all of my accessories installed. I put the limb dampeners on there. I put the sling on there, and I changed the scope mount out to the scope mounts that I want. So those are all set up, and now I'm ready to shoot. What I've done is I've ranged off 10 yards is what they tell you to do in the manual. I've got a Vortex rangefinder that I use, and I am shooting into a Block Infinity 16-inch crossbow target. I've used these blocks for years. I'm happy with them. So you can see this one's got a few holes in it, not many, but I will put a link in the comment section for the rangefinder, also the target, and all the accessories that I use on this crossbow. Sighting in this crossbow is a 4-step process, okay? Actually 5-step process. The very first thing you do is you turn the dial on the scope to what the advertised speed of the scope is. And on this crossbow, it is 450 feet per second. So I'm going to turn that dial to 450 feet per second. What I'm going to do then is shoot at 10 yards, just to make sure we're close. Then I'm going to back the target up to 20 yards, adjust the scope at 20 yards, and then move it back to 50 yards and adjust the scope again at 50 yards. Once I get that done, I'm going to bring the target forward to 40 yards and shoot again. And if I'm shooting high or low at 40 yards, I'm going to adjust the speed on the scope either up or down to dial that into where it needs to be. Once that's done, I lock the scope down, I put the caps back on, and we are set, ready to go, and we're ready to shoot out to 100 yards. So let's get this thing going. Let's shoot at 10 yards, get it fired up, and see how it shoots. When loading these arrows, it's important to remember that the white fletching goes down. If you shoot it with the white fletching up, you're not going to have the same accuracy. So white fletching down. "10 yards, let's do it." Okay, so we are a little bit low at 10 yards. I'm okay with that. I'm going to push the target back to 20 yards and shoot at 20 and see how it goes. So looks like that one's a little bit to the left. I like the elevation, so I'm going to adjust the scope cap or scope. I'm going to go right about I think 4 clicks, maybe a little bit more, but let's keep going and see how it looks. Well, there we go. Looks like that adjustment brought the arrow in a little bit to the right where it needed to be. I'm going to push this back now to 50 yards, and we're going to shoot it at 50 and see how it shoots. Well, when I took that second shot, I heard a weird noise and I saw something hit the bushes behind the target, and I didn't know what it was. So looking at the target, everything looks okay. But when you come around here and look at the backside, looks like my my arrows kind of crossed a little bit in the target and hit each other, and I blew one of the arrows apart. So time to go back inside and get a couple more practice arrows and set this target up at 50 yards and go from there. Well, not bad at 50 yards. I'm gonna move the sights a little bit to the right farther, but other than that, I think I'm good. And then now I'm gonna move the target back to the 40-yard line, and I'm gonna calibrate the arrows since the sighting of the scope is done. So let's get that finished. I've taken this crossbow now, I've shot it at 20 yards, adjusted the scope, moved back to 50 yards, shot it, adjusted the scope. Now what I'm gonna do is I move the target back to 40 yards, and I'm gonna shoot it and check the elevation. And if it's high or low, I'm gonna adjust this dial on here for the speed of the arrow. And that's the last step to get this thing dialed in. Once we complete those steps, I can lock down this ring, I can put the scope caps back on this thing, and we should be good to shoot out to 100 yards. So let's take the last couple shots and get her dialed in. Well, I gotta say, I'm happy with that. It's shooting about an inch high and a half inch to the right at 40 yards, which I'm shooting off a wobbly log without a really great rest. So that could definitely be me, but I'm happy with this right here. So I'm gonna tighten down the ring. I'm gonna put the scope caps back on already. She is sighted in, ready to go, and I can't wait to take it in the woods and use it. Now, I mentioned to you that this crossbow is sighted out to 100 yards. Just so you know, I only target shoot out that far, and I've only done it a couple times. My range with this crossbow is about, I'd say, 65 yards, give or take, depending upon the scenario. I have shot a deer with my other R-29 at 80 yards, but that was under perfect conditions. There was no wind, the deer was broadside, she was dead nuts on at 80 yards, and I nailed her exactly where I was aiming. She ran down the field and fell over a double lung shot right behind the shoulder. Normally, where I hunt here in the Northeast, you can't get a shot that far with the crossbow anyways, so I'm looking at 50, 60 yards, somewhere in there, which extends my bow range out another 20 yards or so. That's why I like this crossbow. But it is a great tool. It is an awesome piece of equipment. I don't know if you like Ravens or if you tried them before, but I went from a Barnett to the Raven, and I never looked back after I bought my first Raven. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something about this crossbow. Maybe you're looking to buy one. Maybe you just wanted to check them out. But thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming along. I hope to see you next time. And like I say at the end of all my videos, I wish you guys nothing but tight lines and short blood trails.